Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a box called Blocky from Hack the Box, and this is rated as a medium box, but it's actually a pretty challenging box with the amount of rabbit holes that it has. There are two different ways that you can tackle this box to get a root shell. The first one is a simple SSH, and another one is a more complicated through the rabbit holes scenario that we'll be going through in this video. I strongly recommend that you watch Ipsek's video on this. He explains in further detail different processes and definitely a great video to watch. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm actually going to be running my my hacking script that I created. And basically what it does, it's a simple script that is going to ping the machine just to make sure that it's actually alive, because trust me, we've all had that situation with, like, especially with Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, that the machines and the connection would just not work. But once that shows that no packets are lost, it'll run RustScan. And if you're not familiar with RustScan is kind of a wraparound of Nmap. It's not meant to replace Nmap. So in order even to run RustScan, you need to have Nmap installed, but it basically will enumerate all 65,535 ports in rapid speed and give you the output here. But then you can also output those ports into Nmap, and then they can run like the default scripts, the versions, all that, the regular Nmap output that you would run. So definitely a great tool to have in your arsenal. So I'm gonna let this run, but I can immediately see that there's an FTP server open. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually run FTP on this IP address and see if anonymous login is enabled. And it's not. Okay, so FTP does not allow anonymous login. So we could try to do SSH brute force, but in reality, attacking SSH is not as common as you think. So the next option would be HTTP, which is port 80. And while we do that, you can actually see that the RustScan script portion of the script was finished, and it gives us that port 80 isn't actually an Apache. Okay, Ubuntu. It runs WordPress, which is interesting, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to run FFF. And if you're not familiar with FFF, basically what FFF is, it's a directory brute forcing tool like GoBuster or dir search. It's just written in Go. It's ridiculously fast. And so the script that I wrote allows me to just automatically automate this process, ask me just questions, and based on those questions, like if I want to run recursions, it would run recursions on it. If not, it asks to do status codes. You can also filter status codes. There's so many more options that you can do for FFF that I'm not sure you can do for GoBuster. But if you guys want to further detail, I definitely recommend that you check out Code Dingo's video. Definitely subscribe to his YouTube channel, and also Insider PhD. They both actually went into amazing detail on the capabilities of FF. So really great resource. So from the scan we already have, I can see that there is a couple directories, right? And the first thing that sticks out to me is that WP content, right? WP or WordPress is a website management hosting application that basically allows you to create your own website, your own blogs, right? It is not a server. That's mostly Apache or Microsoft IIS, Nginx, whatever. So Kali actually has a tool installed that's called WP Scan, right? And what WP Scan allows you to do is it actually allows you to search and enumerate WordPress websites. So since I know that that's a WordPress site, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go WP scan to help to see what we can do. So obviously we'll put the URL, and then there's all these different options here that are available. So I'm going to do the enumerate option, and that should give me a lot of information on the target. So HTTP, and then I'm going to do tag enumerate, and then I'm going to actually save this T to WP underscore scan.log. So then I'm going to let this run for a bit, and I'm actually going to search. So there's a PHPMyAdmin, which I thought it was interesting. WP-admin also was interesting. So let's just open it up and see what we can find. And this is where we're starting to get into that rabbit hole area because of all the different possibilities that we can attack the system. So first we'll look at the web page itself. I'll let that load. Okay, so now let's go to dash PHPMyAdmin, and I'll open this one with WP-admin as well, and we can see. Okay, so we get a default WordPress login, right? And from experience, what I did was I just did root. I did basic admin, and see if this works. And it doesn't. So we get actually username enumeration here because it says invalid username. And from experience, my head starts thinking, okay, it says invalid username. Well, I can brute force possibly usernames that we can attack the system, right? So when I ran Hydra, to get the list of usernames, but this is where a rabbit hole comes in, because the Hydra would keep running on the Rocky text list, and you would actually get empty fields come up with no username, because the way that Hydra works, it looks at this. If this message comes up, if this message does not reappear, then Hydra thinks, okay, I have a possible match. So that's why there's a rabbit hole here, and you would just keep getting multiple different possibilities. So that was a rabbit hole that I was definitely getting into. So another one was PHPMyAdmin. And what PHPMyAdmin is, it's basically a web interface that allows admins to manage MySQL servers and databases. That's all it pretty much is. And you can see there's root and a password. So I didn't try to brute force this just because we would get access denied for this user. So I tabled this for a bit, and I decided to maybe look at the other directories, right, that I had. And I'm not gonna run FFF again, so I'm just gonna leave that. And so we have WP content. Okay, we have wiki. So maybe let's go check out the wiki page and see what we can possibly get from there. And it says under construction. New core plugins will store your playtime and other information in our database, so you can see your own stats. Okay, so there's a new core plugin. So looking at here, there's actually a plugins directory. So I'm just gonna try and see what's in there, since there's something new there. And we get 2 files, right? So I actually downloaded the blocky.jar, and I saved that. And now I'm gonna go ahead and check it out. So I don't need that, so I'm gonna move. Okay, so what I'm gonna basically what a .jar file is, it's a Java file, but that's zipped, so it's compressed. So whenever you have a .jar file, you can actually uncompress it just using unzip blocky.jar, and you can see that it actually creates two directories. There's nothing in the meta int, so we can actually just really remove that. But there's actually some information in the com directory. My first plugins, and here we find a .class file. Now, this file right here, it's a type of so the .class file is a Java file that contains Java bytecode and can be executed by the Java virtual machine. It's basically saying that this is a Java file. So it's compressed, and if we actually looked at it, it would be binary. But there's some options that you can do, especially with this one. You can download some Java decompilers online. There's I think it's called JAD-GUI, if I'm not mistaken, which is a GUI interface. It's free to download, and you can decompile this code. Or what I decided to do, I actually just decided to run strings on it and just see what printable characters existed. And there's a lot. So I see here that there says SQL host, SQL user, SQL pass, code, and then I see here there's a root, and here's a password. Okay, so let's see. We have root and we have this password. So let's just write gedit creds, and let's put root, and let's write in our password. Okay, cool. So we'll save that. Now, everything from there, we can try to brute access the FTP server. Let's see if we can do that. So FTP, again, 10.10.10.37. Root, copy and paste that. And okay, that's not it. Okay, cool. So it's not a password. So then let's do SSH root at 10.10.10.37. And that's not a password either. So the next option, and this is where, again, this is the easy route that you can take, is looking at the actual homepage. We see that there's someone that created a post, right? Welcome to Blocky Craft. And most of the time, this is where we can get some information about usernames that are, or authors that are registered to the website. So during this, when I was doing it, I really didn't see this part right here. It was kind of hidden for me. And definitely it's important that as a hacker, you are very vigilant and take your time and carefully look at every information that's being thrown at you, because you never know what information can be thrown at you that will benefit you in some way. So we see here that there's a user Notch. Okay. So what you can do is we can actually just try in SSHing as Notch. And this is where, spoiler alert, the password will work for Notch, and you will get access. So, and from there we can gain access to the system and root it, right? So that's the easier way. But let's say that we know that Notch is a user, right? But let's try going to the PHPMyAdmin, and we have root, right? So there has to be a username that's root somewhere in the system with that password. So let's try and copy and paste the password here, because we can also try to we can try root and see if that's even a user. And let's try test. And no, so the root username is not valid here. And we, like I said, we know that there is a root username somewhere in this system because of those blocky code. So let's run this, and voila, we actually get a username. I mean, we get access to the PHPMyAdmin. So from here, what we can do, we can actually go to WordPress and look around. There's WordPress users, and we see that there's Notch as a user. Okay, and here's his password. So what I did was I actually just took this password away, deleted it, and I actually put 1234, and I decided to MD5 it, right? So then I hit go, and now what we can do is we can actually try and access Notch 1234, and boom. And the reason that this attack worked was because since PHPMyAdmin is running the MySQL database for credentials and users, and we have the Notch user here, we were able to edit his password for a MD5 hash value of 12345. So then once it's saved, that would be the new password, and that's how we got access to WordPress. So okay, so now we have access to WordPress, right? So let's look maybe at what our WP scan log said. And let's see what we can find. And what's great about this tool is it actually lets you know with this symbol that, okay, there is versions out of date, and there's actually a 80% confidence. So they give you confidence level of the different vulnerabilities and different things that they find. So looking at the rest of this code, this seems to be our possible attack vector. So let's check out the 2017, the themes 2017, and see what we can do. So we go to appearances, and this is the 2017 one, right? So let's see what we can do. Editor, and if you hit editor, the one thing you can see the first thing you can see is that you have different PHP scripts here, right? We have a 404, an archive, comments, and so on. So this 404.php script actually gave me an idea of uploading a PHP reverse shell. And if you're not familiar with this, it's actually, you can get this from, so there's one here in, if I'm not mistaken, users share web shells. And it's right here, PHP reverse shell, or you can just manually download it from pentestmonkey.com. So and that's what I actually did. I have mine right here, and I'm actually going to run, I'm going to gedit shell hack the box, control copy, and we'll go here, control V, but this time I actually need to change my IP address. So let's go up a little bit and change this to .21. Perfect. So now we update the file, and file has been successfully updated. Cool. So I don't need this anymore. So let's run a netcat tech nlvp to set up a reverse shell. Now, the tricky part is how are we going to execute this 404 template, right? So if we look here, they actually gives, the cool part about this WordPress scan is that it actually gives you the location. So we can copy this, copy link address, and we can go here, copy and paste it, and actually we can just do 404.php, because what we're doing is we're going into this directory here, and we're going to just try to access the 404.php file that we uploaded. And as shown, we actually have a reverse shell. So now let's do an ID, and we're dub data. We don't have any privileges. We can't sudo tackle because we actually need a password. So this is where enumeration of, since we know what PHPMyAdmin is, we can actually try to access it. And through a little Google searching, we actually can see that it's the files located in here. Right here. So what we can do is cd phpMyAdmin ls, and there's config database.php, and there's all these files. So I'm gonna look in. Let's look into the config.php one. So let's actually do, if we can even read into it. So we can't read into that one, if I'm not mistaken. But actually, let's try and actually, yeah, because we're grouped. So let's do cat config -db.php, and we have deep database user is that, and here's the same password. If you notice, this is the exact same one as the root. Okay, so let's try and do switch user root. Must be ran from a terminal. Okay, so let's just do Python 3 tac c. Nope, did not mean to do that. Let's do Python 3 tac c import pty pty dot spawn bin bash and execute, and there we go. So now let's try this again. Cat config or su switch user root password. Okay, so it doesn't seem to be that's the password. So this is where we're kind of like basically thinking, okay, so we know that there's another user, Notch, right? So he has to be a user here, but we can also double check with etsy-passwd. And if you're new, if you don't know what this is actually a directory that tells you what users are on the machine, and this is a great tool, well, a great file to look at if you are not aware of what users are present. So okay, we have root, daemon, that's really not a user, so we gotta see if there's another user here that has like bin bash or like bash access. Alright, and here it is. We have Notch. Okay, so Notch is the other user, right? Okay, so let's try and use switch user to Notch. Let's copy and paste the password, and voila, we are now Notch. Okay, so let's go to home. We can access Notch now. So cd Notch ls tac la to see if anything's hidden, and let's do cat user.text, and here's the flag. Okay, cool. So now we're user Notch. Now the next step is actually for us to get access as root. So let's do switch. Let's see what we can do. You can upload linpiece or linenum to run this, but always the first step that I run is running sudo tackle. This is like just a go-to de facto easiest priv-esque attack vector that we can run besides running like a automated script like linoleum or linpiece, because this gives you access to what services the user can run a sudo. So let's copy and paste the password. And as you can see, this is why I run sudo takeout first, because most of the time you can run programs as a user or just in general without a password. So let's just do sudo tech bin tech bash, and there you go, you are root. So, and that's the box. So now we can go to cd root cat root.txt ls cat root.txt, and there we go. So this machine was definitely a tricky one when I did it, because of the amount of rabbit holes and the different ways that I was trying to brute force a password. So my advice is, know your process, take your time, definitely take your time. Hacking is all about being patient. I'm not an expert, I'm still learning just as you guys, but it definitely helps to be patient and take great notes on this. If you don't know what a file does or a program does, Google it, take notes on it, so the next time you can be aware of what you did and how to tackle that problem. So always try to learn from it. And maybe what I do is at the end I do have a lessons learned situation, summary that actually analyze what I learned from this box, and then if there's tools that I learned and I need to remember, I have another pair of notes that are just dedicated to hacking tools and commands that will help me in the future. So I definitely recommend that you guys start doing that. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this box. It was definitely a challenging one. With the amount of rabbit holes that appeared was very complicated. It was very complicated and time consuming. But yeah, again, please go watch Ipsek's video. He does an amazing job explaining all this and going into better detail than probably I can. So thank you guys, and I'll catch you in the next one. Later.